Hello students, we shall be discussing about retinoblastoma, which is an intraocular tumor of childhood. Usually this presents with leukocoria, which means that there is white reflex from the pupil. You can appreciate this white reflex from pupil of this child and this child. Retinoblastoma is a rare entity occurring in 1 per 1800 live birth, but it is the most common primary intraocular malignancy of childhood and overall second most common intraocular tumor. Survival rate is over 95% in specialized center. It shows that the life of child can be saved in most of the cases if taken care nicely. Survival rate also depends upon the time of first presentation of the case. So early diagnosis and management is crucial as in other tumors. But the mainstay of diagnosis is clinical as biopsy could not be done in retinoblastoma. Retinoblastoma has varied presentation and if you miss it, you get hit. Mostly it presents with leukocoria, squinting of the eye, buphthalmus that is large eyeball, corneal clouding that is corneal edema, loss of fundus glow, uveitis-like picture, spontaneous hyphema. Hyphema means blood in anterior chamber. Orbital cellulitis, that is inflammation of the orbit. Retinoblastoma is a primary malignant tumor of retina arising from immature retinal cells, mostly which is sporadic and there is no family history. It could present as unilateral retinoblastoma case or bilateral. Unilateral cases are more, that is 60 to 70% cases are unilateral, but around 30 to 40% cases are bilateral. And bilateral cases have multiple mass, while unilateral cases have solitary or one mass. This could either be heritable or non-heritable. All bilateral cases are heritable. Heritable means they can be inherited to future, that is they can be inherited to the children of the patient, and it is inherited as autosomal dominant, and gene of this lies on long arm of chromosome number 30. Regarding genetics, the genetics of retinoblastoma are often highlighted as paradigm illustrating the genetic basis of cancer. Tumor suppressor gene of retinoblastoma, that is RB1, lies on long arm of chromosome number 30. If there is any mutation or deletion here, this predisposes this to retinoblastoma. You can see here, this lies here, heritable retinoblastoma. 40% retinoblastoma are heritable. In such cases, one of the pair of alleles of RB1 is mutated in germ cell line itself. So all the cells in the body will have mutation. When the second mutation occur in the second allele in any somatic cell, especially in the retina, the cells may undergo malignant transformation. So they will become malignant. Because of mutation present in all the cells, a large number of children develop bilateral and multifocal tumors. Risk of sibling transmission is very high, that is up to 80 to 90%. And this may be associated with other non-ocular tumor as pinealoblastoma, osteosarcoma, soft tissue sarcoma, and melanomas. When it is associated with pinealoblastoma, it is also called as trilateral retinoblastoma. Second malignancy can also occur after external beam radiation therapy because this beam radiotherapy can itself induce mutation in the already in the cells in which already there has been any. Second malignancy can also occur after external beam radiotherapy only because it will induce some mutation, that is second mutation in heritable cases. So in heritable retinoblastoma, EBRT is usually not done. Non-heritable retinoblastoma are unilateral, not transmissible, and 90% of children with unilateral retinoblastoma will have non-hereditary form. That is, unilateral retinoblastoma are usually non-hereditary, while bilateral retinoblastoma are heritable retinoblastoma. Histology. Tumors are composed of small basophilic cells called retinoblasts, and many retinoblastoma are undifferentiated. But differentiated tumors may be characterized by the formation of structures called rosettes, and they are named as Flexner Winterstein and Homer Wright rosettes, and fleurettes, that is flower petal pattern. You can see the rosettes here. It is looking like a flower. So retinoblastoma can be unilateral or bilateral, but it will always be progressive because it will keep on increasing in size. And so the eye will look violent. With indirect ophthalmoscopy, you can view single or multiple white elevated solid mass, thick blood vessels proceeding toward this mass, and vitreous may be hazy, and this will be having raised intraocular pressure because of the mass. As the size of the mass will increase, there will be increase in intraocular pressure, and since the patient is child, so the eyeball will increase in size. So have patience with examining the child, and both eyes must be examined because 40% of cases are bilateral cases and heritable also. And every effort should be made to examine the child with good torchlight, slit lamp, and indirect ophthalmoscope. Sedation and anesthesia may be used for good examination. And the median age of presentation is around 12 months in bilateral cases, that is, they present early, and 24 months in unilateral cases. And it is extremely low incidence after 6 years of age and during neonatal presentation. And there is no racial or sex discrimination. You can see here white raised masses over the retina, which is attached to the retina. These are retinoblastoma. This has multiple retinoblastoma, single retinoblastoma. White raised masses of retina over the retina is a diagnosis of retinoblastoma in very young child. You can appreciate the white reflex from the pupil, which is one of the most important presentation of retinoblastoma, and this is because of reflection of light from the white intraocular tumor. And many of the times the patient's parent will say that his eyes are looking white and different type in color, different in color. And you will have to ask the child about the history, since how long this it has been present. Involvement of macula by tumor leads to loss of vision, and thus the patient will have squinting of the eye. So all squinting child must undergo detailed examination of the fundus by ophthalmoscopy, because squinting has several other causes also, and especially in young children this could be because of refractive error and other causes of uh, squint. But one of the important cause, or that is presentation of retinoblastoma, is squinting also. So all squinting eyes must be examined to rule out retinoblastoma. It can also present as fungating proptosis due to rapidly enlarging tumor, especially in very young children. But these patients will not have fever or any other sign of inflammation as in cases of orbital cellulitis or panophthalmitis. And orbital cellulitis, like picture, is because of rapidly enlarging tumor and vascularization. So whenever you suspect a case of inflammation of the orbit in a young child, you must also suspect about the retinoblastoma. It can also present as inflammation of the eye itself, that is any intraocular inflammation, and this may be because of retinoblastoma or leukemia also. The patient eye may present with exudate like, or that is white fluid like precipitates in the anterior chamber, which is nothing but tumor cells from the main tumor which has come into the anterior chamber. We call it hypopion, but basically hypopion is neutrophils or inflammatory cells, but here it is not because of cells but because of tumor cells, so we call it pseudo hypopion. Hyphema, that is blood in the anterior chamber which has come from the ruptured blood vessels of the tumor itself. Since the eyeball is having intraocular tumor and which is rapidly increasing in size, this can lead to raised intraocular pressure, as well as this will lead to corneal edema. Since the patient is a child with under the influence of raised intraocular pressure, the eyeball will increase in size and it will present as ophthalmos, that is large eyeball. The mainstay of diagnosis of retinoblastoma is clinical, but role of ultrasonography and contrast enhanced CT scan is very important in diagnosis of the cases of retinoblastoma, as well as to evaluate regarding its extension to the optic nerve, to the orbit and metastasis. Large tumors, that is 10 mm or more, contain multiple foci of intralesional calcification. This is very important because this is one tumor in which you can see calcification in the eyeball itself. and it has shadow over the sclera. Cal Calcification spikes persist even on very low gain. Calcification spikes means I will explain this in coming slide. And it is solid, highly reflective mass. This is a typical ultrasonographic picture of a case of retinoblastoma. Ultrasound is done basically in two ways. One is called A scan, in which a single pencil of sound is thrown over the eyeball and it passes through the structures. So it will pass from cornea to anterior chamber, then to the through the lens it will pass into the vitreous, and then it will pass through the mass and then sclera, retina and sclera. And every time it strikes a new structure, it will give a spike. This is a single pencil of sound. So it is recorded as reflection from these sounds, and reflections are recorded in spikes, and we call it axial scan or A scan. The other type of ultrasonography, which is modification of this A scan, is called B scan, that is brightness scan. Here multiple pencil of sounds are thrown at the same time, and each will have reflection from different structures through which it is passing. And in spite of presentation in spike form, they are presented as brightness form. So all these spikes will be converted into brightness. So more the spike, more is the brightness. And since several pencil of sound is being passed through the eye at a time, so several points of brightness and darkness will appear. This will give a two-directional picture of the mass through which it passes. Most of you are aware of this B scan or brightness scan ultrasonography. But when we study a case of intraocular tumor, along with this B scan, we also do A scan in the same picture, a same frame, so that we can analyze that what is the quantity of reflection. So B scan aided with A scan is very helpful in diagnosis of any intraocular mass, especially in retinoblastoma, because here the mass is irregular in ecology. That is, it is not a solid mass. Somewhere it is more bright, somewhere it is less bright. So ecogenicity is different, and this is because of necrosis of the intraocular mass, that is rapidly intraocular mass, and followed by calcification, which is sign of uh, your sequelae of necrosis. So you will have very high irregular spikes in a case of retinoblastoma, which is coming from the tumor itself and which is attached to the sclera or the outer coat of the eyeball, that is because sclera and retina are mostly in vicinity. CT scan will also show the similar thing. It will give size, shape and location and involvement of the optic nerve, whether it is involved or not. So multicentric retinoblastoma with extensive seedings in the vitreous but no calcification can also be picked up with this, because even if the case is early and there is no calcification, because in small tumors and early cases there will not be any necrosis, so there may not be calcification also, but this can be picked up with CT scan. So this is one of the most important diagnostic aid. Even X-ray, plain X-ray of the orbit can show calcification in the ocular area. So we can call that in a patient under 3-year-old in whom a retinoblastoma is suspected, The presence of calcification on CT scan is virtually diagnostic of retinoblastoma. So, patient below 3 years, CT scan showing calcification is a case of retinoblastoma. So, retinoblastoma is suspected when you have leukocoria, squint, posterior uveitis, proptosis, endophthalmitis or panophthalmitis, orbital cellulitis, vitreous hemorrhage, and you find retinal detachment and intraocular mass with media opacity in detailed examination of the eye, you suspect retinoblastoma. Management of the retinoblastoma. As in any other case of tumor or malignancy, what is the goal of treatment? Goal of the treatment is save the function of that organ. Always try to save the function of that organ while treating the case. So here save the site, or at least you save that organ. Here save the eye. The third goal is, at least if you cannot save the site or the eye itself, at least save the life of the child. So approach to management is collaborative here because the diagnosis will be made by ophthalmologist and treatment will be given by mostly ophthalmologist as well as pediatric oncologist, and this will be confirmed by ocular pathologist after enucleation if it has to be done. And geneticist can also be involved to predict about the heritability of the case and finding the case in the sibling. Counselor is needed because the patient, not only patient person but his family is also in anxiety that whether the next child will have the same disease or not. So the counseling and the parent must be involved in all the planning because they are the person who know what is the best about him and their child and their family. Chemotherapy is the mainstay of treatment of retinoblastoma. It can either be used alone or along with or in conjunction with local treatment of the malignant tumors. The agents used are carboplastin, etoposide, and vincristine, and this is given in 3 to 6 cycles. This is given systemically, but systemic use of CEV has also side effect over the body, and it may become intolerable. So newer methods of delivery of this CEV is coming, and it has been seen that injection of these anti-malignant agents in selective ophthalmic artery of the eye, of that affected eye, has some promising outcome with reduced side effect. Other modality of treatment is transpupillary thermotherapy, that is TTT, and it is used for local consolidation of the tumor following chemotherapy. That is, chemotherapy will cause reduction in the size, and this small sized tumor can be managed with thermal therapy, transpupillary thermotherapy. And especially it is used for posteriorly lying tumors. But it can also be used as isolated treatment modality in small posterior tumors. Similarly, cryotherapy is a modality in which you freeze and thaw several times over the tumor. So freezing and thawing of the tumor cells will cause destruction of the tumor, and this is used for small tumors, and anterior tumors are easily manageable with cryotherapy with almost nil side effects. So TTT and cryotherapy has a very important role in smaller tumor as well as consolidation and destruction of the reduced tumor. that is reduced in size, with the tumor which has been reduced by chemical management, that is chemotherapy, can also be managed with cryotherapy and TTT. Other modality is brachytherapy. In this, a radioactive plaque is fixed surgically over the tumor outside the red sclera. So conjunctiva is removed and then the plaque is fixed with the sutures or stitches over the tumor, and this is placed there for a specific period so that it can deliver a specific dose of that radiation. So it has very little side effect over other part of the orbit and face. So this is suitable when the tumor is small enough and there is no vitreous seeding of the tumor cells, that is there is no shedding of the tumor cells in the vitreous. External beam radiotherapy is another way of delivering radiation to the tumor cells. But EBRT is avoided if possible, particularly in heritable retinoblastoma, because it can induce second mutation in the otherwise normal retinal tissue. Enucleation, that is removal of globe, is indicated when the tumor is confined to the globe itself and there is no local or distant metastasis. But at the same time, the tumor is large enough and cannot be managed by brachytherapy, TTT, or cryotherapy, and has vitreous seeding. That is, it has engulfed most of the part of the globe. That is, it might have involved more than half of the globe. Then the enucleation is indicated. And when the chemoreduction fails and the tumor is diffused. So these are the large tumors involving the eyeball itself, but it has not metastasized to other part of the orbit as well as in the body. Then only enucleation is indicated. Enucleation should be managed by a skilled surgeon because the enucleation should be done with minimum manipulation and to be done neatly. Otherwise, while doing enucleation, the tumor cell may spill over and cause metastasis of the tumor. And along with this, a long optic nerve of around 15 millimeter should be cut along with the globe. Biopsy of the globe should be done, including comment on optic nerve involvement. So you must ask the pathologist to give a comment whether the optic nerve is involved or not, because treatment will change if the optic nerve is involved. Exenteration is still performed, especially in underdeveloped countries, because there the cases present late, and this has involved other surrounding parts of the orbit, surrounding part of the eye itself. In this, there is removal of globe together with the soft tissue of the orbit, and evisceration is a great no. One should never attempt evisceration in cases of retinoblastoma. This can accidentally be done by mistake because many of the cases of retinoblastoma present with endophthalmitis, in which evisceration is indicated. So you have to be very careful whether the case is of endophthalmitis or retinoblastoma. If it is a case of retinoblastoma, evisceration should never be done. Patients with treated retinoblastoma as well as siblings who are at risk of inheriting the tumor need to be monitored indefinitely. Patients with siblings of patients in whom the risk of retinoblastoma cannot be ruled out by genetic study should be monitored by examination under anesthesia every 3 to 4 months until age 3 to 4 years, after which they are examined under anesthesia every 6 months and until age of 5 to 6 years and annually thereafter. So they must be monitored for a long period whether the siblings are developing retinoblastoma or not. Because you may treat one case while the other patient may be left because you may not be suspecting retinoblastoma in that in his siblings, but he may develop uh, retinoblastoma in a later stage because 40% of them are heritable. Coats disease is most confusing differential diagnosis. Here again, the patient will present with typical white reflex from the pupil, and you will find the retina white and blood vessels here. But the children are usually more than 10 years of the age and they present unilaterally. But the area is very large, and with this large area, in the case of retinoblastoma, there should be raised intraocular pressure. Here, the intraocular pressure will be normal or less because they are not malignant tumor, but because of their glistening cholesterol-like exudates. The eyeball is normal size despite large lesions. MRI does not show any calcification, but they have fat-like consistency. So, with all these clues, we can diagnose a case of Coats disease because the children are usually 10 years or more. Retinopathy of prematurity, which also gives leukocoria, but when they give leukocoria, they are most of the time bilateral. But here you will find the child is very small, that is infant, and there is history of prematurity, difficult birth, and the difficulty at the time in the neonatal period. And they had been admitted in NICU, and they were having low birth weight. And the presentation is in neonatal period. Here again, intraocular pressure will be normal. Toxocara endophthalmitis is usually unilateral, and you can see here white opacity which can reflect through the pupil also, and this can be confused with malignancy in a child because its presentation is again between 2 years to 9 years. It will have low intraocular pressure and retinal detachment, and this may undergo phthisis in later stage. Persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous will have a small cornea and again unilateral, and ciliary processes may be visible and the pupil will dilate less in such cases. So there will be poor dilatation. Choroidal coloboma is one of the differential diagnosis of retinoblastoma, but most of the time it does not pose much dilemma for a case for a case of retinoblastoma because typically choroidal coloboma is present in inferonasal part of both the eyes or one eye, and it is along with this there will be iris coloboma. Coloboma means missing part. So here the choroid is missing and here iris is missing, which is again a choroid, and the eye is also associated with microphthalmos, that is small eyes, that is less than 10 millimeter of the eyes. A high degree of suspicion is needed in cases of leukocoria in children, especially under 6 years of the age. So all efforts should be made to rule out retinoblastoma in cases of leukocoria in a child. I think you have understood the differential diagnosis of leukocoria as well as details of retinoblastoma along with its management. With this, I say thank you.